We are tuned in to fitness and consciousness. And then a scholar said, "Speak of talking." And he answered, saying, "You talk when you cease to be at space with your thoughts, and when you can no longer dwell in the solitude of your heart, you live in your lips, and sound is a diversion and a pastime. And in much of your talking, thinking is half murdered, for thought is a bird in space, that in a cage of words may indeed unfold its wings, but cannot fly. There are those among you who seek the talkative through fear of being alone. The silence of aloneness reveals to their eyes their naked selves, and they would escape. And there are those who talk, and without knowledge or forethought reveal a truth which they themselves do not understand. And there are those who have the truth within them, but they tell it not in words. In the bosom of such as these, the spirit dwells in rhythmic silence. When you meet your friend on the roadside or in the marketplace, let the spirit in you move your lips and direct your tongue. With the voice within your voice, speak to the ear of his ear, for his soul will keep the truth of your heart as the taste of the wine is remembered, when the color is forgotten and the vessel is no more. It's by the prophet Khalil Gibran. Today's episode is where the climate suits our clothes. And I'm going to be talking about that if you listen to the show, you know how I do it. I look at these phrases or whatever from many different perspectives. I'll take a concept and I try to break it down and see what I can get out of it. So where the climate suits our clothes, I got that phrase from, I thought it was a Grateful Dead song. I heard it from the Grateful Dead. Within, looking some stuff up, doing some research for the show, I realized it seems to be a song that just goes back a really long time and in different culture from the black people in the South, long time ago, maybe even slave days, but I'm not sure exactly. And then in like the Appalachia and basically the whole song, just kind of going from memory, is like going down the road feeling bad, going down the road feeling bad. Going down the road feeling bad, don't want to be treated this way. I'm going where the climate suits my clothes, going where the climate suits my clothes, going where the climate suits my clothes. Don't want to be treated this way. Going where the water tastes like wine. And then, it just kind of repeats. And it's interesting. These things that kind of stick with us. And how often we end up in these situations that we say are not what we want, but we pick them anyway. And one example of that is well, women will often say that they want this particular kind of guy. And then they choose anything but that kind of guy. They choose, somebody that's going to end up hurting them and not being what they say it is that they want, but they pick it anyway. They'll say they want like the nice guy that is like honest and faithful and this kind of stuff, and then they'll choose somebody that isn't. And they know it, and they keep going. Men do the same thing. They have, whatever tendency it is that we do. But and of course, not all of them are like that. Not all women are like that. But when you read, this book was recommended to me. I think it's called Being a 3% Man, I think is the name of it. And it was recommended to me. I didn't know what it even was. I knew it was about relationships and stuff. A buddy of mine at work recommended it. But it was basically talking about I'm not very far into it, but it's talking about, how to get women, which is a weird kind of thing to say, but let's just not try to crush it from the very beginning. Let's hear it out and then destroy it. No, but there's in a lot of what I've read so far, it's right. So basically, there's this formula. If you read these books about women and from the man's perspective on getting women, it's if you're too eager, then that turns them off. And if you are, which of course, if you all of a sudden become obsessed and clingy, then that's not good. But it can be even more subtle than that. And so the way to get a woman is to seem like you have a lot of options, and maybe you do. You're unsure, you're unclear. And from this book, I didn't look up his sources, but he said it is scientifically proven that women are more attractive to someone that is unclear about their feelings. And this has been what I've seen myself. And it just seems to be common knowledge. This is just kind of the way it is for people mostly. So when you're reading these books about relationships or dating or whatever, that's, the advice you get is to kind of try to be mysterious and elusive and, if she calls you on the phone, don't be on the phone more than 10 minutes. Use the phone just to make the date and then get off the phone. And that's one example from the book. And I think there's the point, there's the truth, and then it gets, so, well, how do we get beyond that? So if a woman says that she wants one kind of guy, the good guy, and she ends up with, for lack of a better term at the moment, the bad boy, or the guy that is elusive or cheating, and then how do they get past that? And how do guys get past thinking that they can change the woman that's in that pattern? I did a show about patterns a time or two ago. So the way I've came to see it now is if I'm interested in someone, and then, well, let me go back a little bit. Let me go back and set the table a little bit better. So I'll give an example of this woman that we were together. It was probably one of the best relationships that I've had, the longest. We were together for 2 years, and right away we I guess hit it off. But then there was as soon as she knew that I was okay, if we're going to give this a try, then I'm not going to be wanting to see anybody else. I'm not going to date more than one person at a time. If I'm interested, then it's just me and you figuring this thing out. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, that's fine too. It's not like I become obsessed. But if something is worth a shot, then, why would I want to mess it up with something else? And then if it doesn't work, then okay. But even at the very beginning of this, once I said that to her, she was confused that what do you mean? That's really direct. And she was interested in me too. Of course, we were together for 2 years. But even at the beginning, it was kind of messed with her. She was like, you're so stable and definite about your thoughts and feelings. I'm yeah, well, it's not confusing to me at all. I'm interested in you, and why would I want to mess that up? If this works for a week, a month, a year, who knows how long, then it's worth not throwing rocks at it the whole time, throwing wrenches in the gears. And then there were times when I would call what she was doing was throwing rocks at us. I think that concept is easy enough for now. That's another one of those where I can, dig. I could probably do a whole show on throwing rocks. Because most of the guys that she had seen before were, a lot of them not so good to her. They were cheating on someone else, or they were kind of doing something that, if you ask her what she's looking for in a guy, that's not it. But she was choosing it anyway. And then so I come along and I'm like, yeah, this is really simple. Why does it have to be so complicated? People are just like too complicated sometimes. If you can always find things wrong, and there is something about like the chase, and there's like this game of if you think somebody might be interested in you, or if you know somebody that is interested in you, and they make it perfectly clear, and it's like, okay, I have them now, and it's like, I'll see what else is out there. And so I've known guys that are like that, of course. And I had this friend, and we don't hang out anymore, but he was always cheating on his girl, and he had it. She was nice. She was. I mean, she was pretty rough on him sometimes, but it was mostly because he was lying and cheating and all the time. And then he would get mad. He's like, she accused me of seeing this woman, and I was like, but you are. He's like, yeah, but I told her I wasn't. So he was mad because she didn't believe his lies. It's weird. And so when he's like seeing these other girls, he did it once in front of me. I think he knew I didn't like. He did know I wasn't into that kind of thing. But like one time I was with him, and he's like, oh, I gotta stop at this chick's house, and he like drives his truck into the yard, and then she comes out, and then they like make out for a minute, and then he gets back in the truck, and then we go back to his place where he lives with his girl. It's like, what the hell? And she was a friend of mine too. And I remember asking him one time, I was like, what do you say to these girls? He's like, whatever they want to hear. But I guess you could say that he is somebody that gets a lot of girls. He follows the formula that you can read in all these dating books. The real, how to get women, how to pick women up. There's a formula, and it works. I've seen it over and over and over again. I don't do it. I don't use it. Because I figure if I'm going to be with someone, I want them to be beyond these things. So I'm not looking for numbers. Like, oh, I was with 47 girls last week. Oh, I'm exhausted. But man, it's weird to me. I don't like it. I've never been that way. I'm reading that book anyway, anyways, because it gives a interesting perspective. And I'm not so far into the books. Maybe there are things that I don't even know if I could call it useful, but it's more like it's just kind of fascinating how people think. So I would personally rather be with somebody that's like kind of out of the game, they're aware enough of themselves and their patterns to not want to be with a guy that is using these formulas. But Another example is a woman I was kind of seeing. I've described her before as we were friends, and then kind of more than friends, and then just friends. And I've described her before on the show. But we were kind of seeing each other, and then it was really hard to tell like what she was wanting, because like from the first day we hung out, went to dinner and hung out at her place, and like right away, like we're a couple hours into talking, a few hours into talking, she was like, can I kiss you? And I was like in the middle of a sentence, and like, so of course, and then like after a little pause of that, and she's like telling me like what she's looking for. She wants like definitely monogamous, definitely not see other people, definitely not have. And I'm like, that's cool with me. I'm interested. I'm in. I'm not going to be trying to see somebody else while we're figuring this out. It doesn't mean, yes, we're getting married tomorrow, we're going to be together forever, we're going to have kids, we should do our taxes together, we should have a checking account together, we should have, no, it's just we're two people doing this thing, and we're not going to mess it up by seeing someone else. It ends, see somebody else, no big deal. Still be friends, it's cool. But what does she do? Well, even though I was what she would describe as what she wanted, then she goes and ends up seeing somebody that was the same pattern as before, like some doofus that it's so strange. So in a way, and if guys are listening and they're like, yeah, that's me too, it sucks, and I'm like, no, it doesn't suck. It kind of does, but it's better, because then okay, now she would have been, it wouldn't have been worth it. So you have to like know. I'm going to do a show called The Gambler. It's going to be coming up. But The Gambler is like the song. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. And relationships are like that. And so when you have somebody that you see that pattern and it doesn't work out, count that as a favor. Like, good. I don't have to go through cycles and cycles of this thing with this woman. It leaves me open to find something different. But so for the women listening, there are books, you may know about them, that reveal the secret of getting women, and it works. I don't use them because I want somebody that's beyond that. I know that a lot of other women are beyond that, but generally speaking, what are you going to do about it? So where the climate suits our clothes, also, I'm going to get into talking about, I don't know if I explained all this at the beginning, but like location, like where we live, our business, our schools. I covered the bad dating advice. I don't think I'll dig too much more into that, although there may be something that pops up. So where the climate suits our clothes, let's talk about the schools. And so I'm at this point of my life, my business, I guess, state of relationships that I have, the state of just my current state of my own union is I've decided not to get any more certifications for training. I'm still going to train people. I'm just going to do my own method, which I've pretty much been doing anyways. I'm currently a Strong First kettlebell instructor that expires in May. It's February 24th or 5th now, and I'm not going to renew it. I was going to get my second level, which I would have passed. I've asked when I did my last level 1, I just certified again on video online on using Skype. You have to be there for your first one. You can do Skype with a master instructor to renew once, and then you have to go back in person so they can make sure your technique is tight, and you have to get the lessons and everything. But when I retested my level 1, I asked the instructor to check out my level 2 skills, and I would have passed level 2. You just have to demonstrate some more strength stuff, and there's some other techniques. So, but as I'm getting to this point, I'm like, okay, well, what do I really want to do? It's like, do I really want to go through the Strong First certification again? I know I can pass it. I've done it twice. It's hard, but it's not. I've done it twice. And they're like, well, what other certification do I want? Like, well, there's some other good ones. And the only other one that really sounds good to me right now is David Weck. And the Weck method, it's 3 days. And he's pretty much the number one instructor I'm studying right now. So David Weck, for those of you who don't know, he invented the Bosu ball. And if you're a trainer and you think that the Bosu balls are stupid, it's just because you don't understand them. Trust me, I used to say they're stupid. I had no idea why people would bother. And really, for the most part, what I see people do with them, they shouldn't bother. But if you really know what it's for, the way David Weck teaches, then you'll start to get it. And it took me a while, because a lot of what he says is contrary to what I've been teaching before. So I've taught people stuff that I no longer believe in. What I was teaching, I believe is correct, but there's another way of looking at it. So as far as like the way to like lifting goes, then yeah, the Strong First stuff is correct. But then there's this part about, I don't want to get too, I don't know how, well, but there's a part about like, say like running. And a lot of these top, in quotation marks, coaches are saying to like brace your core when you run, because the core is to transfer power, not create it. And David Weck is saying this is absolutely absurd, 100% wrong. People are using like the pull-off press. People are doing things, and he says that is the absolute wrong way to do things. And after like, okay, he's saying that what I'm saying is wrong. I'm basically repeating what I heard before, and I know the strength stuff works. I have a pretty good amount of strength. You know, I'm 165 pounds. I've pressed 115 pounds over my head with one arm for 2 reps. I have some pretty decent strength. And I could probably do more than that, actually. And, well, I'm thinking about it. If you want to check out my Instagram, it's at Hadley Fitness, Hadley Fitness. And there's a video breakdown of me pressing the 115 pounds. It's a barbell. So I have one hand on a barbell, and I tried 4 times without putting it down. I got my first rep. I missed my second rep. I got my third rep, and I missed the 4th rep. So all with 115 pounds, nope, not putting it down. And I asked David Weck about it because I have questions about some core questions. And so he did a really cool job, way more than I expected him to do. He took his time, he broke down my video, and he cut it out frame or broke it down frame by frame and used like a whatever like marker computer marker thing, whatever it's called. He has this software, so he was showing how my shoulders were lined up and my where my hips were, center of gravity stuff, the way the bar was. It was really good, and like, damn, it's super insightful because yeah, I'm a trainer. I've watched hundreds and hundreds of people over thousands, many thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of hours training and studying, just so many thousands of hours, many 100,000 hours is, well, I don't know about 100,000, however many thousands. I've been doing this a long time. I started as a trainer in 1999. I've studied the stuff pretty much every day since then to some degree. So his certification, although it's not specifically about lifting, it's more about locomotion, but there's more to it than that. But his is the only one, and it's like a qualification. So it basically qualifies you to teach running clinics. And if you would have told me 3 years ago that I might be considering learning from the guy that invented the Bosu ball and considering teaching running clinics, like, what? Bosu balls are stupid. I don't like running. Why would I want to teach a running clinic? But now it's like, okay, now I understand the Bosu ball. It's not what you usually see at the gym. And running clinics, well, people tend to run in their sports to some degree, and it's locomotion, and there's more to it than that. So it's like, I'm kind of considering this. But also, I think it could help me to develop my own method by learning this thing, because he's saying that a lot of the people that I've been studying are wrong. He says they're 100% right about some stuff, like generally speaking, lifting. But the other stuff, the locomotion stuff, they're wrong. Like, okay, let's dig into that. And now I agree with him. And so I want to understand it more, because I think we get into these patterns of, okay, we almost start to like deify some of these trainers or our martial art teachers, or we start to like kind of deify these people. They put them on this pedestal and just look at them in awe, these amazing people. And, for me, that's how like Pavel was at Strong First, and he has done some awesome things for sure. But now it's more like, okay. And then now taking like a closer look at myself, what I'm actually capable of. And so in a way, I found myself kind of faking some of my enthusiasm for learning more about some particular things. And there's a book that I have. It's called The 100,000 Songs of Milarepa. And Milarepa was like one of the greatest Buddhist saint poets. I think he was from about 1,000 years ago or so. And I'm getting through his book and trying to learn about that. But what is turning me off about it is this over the top I'm trying to think of the right word. Over the top kind of over appreciation for his guru and stuff. Over appreciation. It's not the. I can't quite think of the word that I'm trying to think of, but it's like this over the top kind of, falling all over himself to express his gratitude. And so now when I can look at these trainers, and now that I'm there's a lot of people plenty better than me. That's why I'm still learning, like David Weck breaking down my lifting video. So yeah, at 165 pounds, for me to press 115 pounds over my head twice with one arm using a barbell, it's pretty good. I think that qualifies me as somebody that knows what I'm doing. And I'm still perfectly willing to show it to somebody else and try to look at it and instead of thinking that like what he says must be wrong, because look at me, like, okay, I'm going to assume that he's right and I'm going to apply those principles and techniques and see what happens. Also, he's just a man. And so I came to see like these other people as, you know, before I was a strong first instructor, and I'm looking at these strong first instructors, or like when I first started, it was the RKC, the Russian Kettlebell Challenge. And I'm looking at these great beings that can do all this stuff with a kettlebell and they're so strong. And now that I'm one of them, it's like, well, actually, it's cool, but it's not worthy of worship. And I found myself like that with my jiu-jitsu teacher also, that I was 18 years old when I started jiu-jitsu. I'll be 40 in a couple months. And I somewhat deified him, and he did definitely alter the course of my life for the better. And he never, like, for instance, he never asked like to be called master or anything like that, but people would call him that anyway, Master Park. But he would just say Mister. And I heard him, somebody called on the phone, and they were talking about jiu-jitsu, and he's like, well, you know, I'm not the best, but he'd been teaching in Indianapolis since 1967, and high-level judo, 7th dan in judo, and so to me as an 18-year-old, looking at this guy who was like, I guess 50-something at the time, 50-something, 60 at the time, I don't know. It's a lot different than looking at him from a 40-year-old's perspective. And it's not that I don't think he's great, and I appreciate how much he did for me. Learning about Zen, etiquette, real meditation, real self-control. And I think in a way it's beyond what a lot of what people learn at some other martial arts schools. There's something about the traditional Japanese way that I hope does not get lost. And I hope people, as like the UFC and stuff gets more and more popular, it's insanely popular. But at the time, at the time when I started, it wasn't really that popular. Well, I hope that kind of value isn't lost. But then there's also realizing that he's just a man. He's just a man, even though he could be a great one. And he never asked to be worshipped or anything like that. But it's just kind of weird what we kind of do with people that we admire. So going forward in my business, and I teach people. I quit one of the places I was teaching. I quit where I was teaching group classes. I did a little tribute show to that not too long ago. I forget what I named it at the moment. But now I'm teaching like one-on-one small groups at a place in Broad Ripple in Indianapolis, and I also do online training using Zoom. So I can Zoom, if you don't know, it's kind of like Skype, but it's better. And so if you want a session with me, send me an email, fitnessandconsciousness@gmail.com. and we can get that set up, and it's by video, so I can demonstrate technique. I can analyze your technique in real time, and it can also record it. So you can go back and watch it over and over again and see, oh, I did have valgus collapse my knees. Oh, I was flexing my spine too much on this, or whatever it is. So as I develop my own system, which I just like a freestyle kettlebell training is. I have a Facebook page, but I haven't been doing so much with it lately. But I kind of have my own method with kettlebells, barbells, body weight. I learned from a lot of different sources, and there is no real certification that covers what I want to teach, so I'm not going to get one. And the only exception to that might be David Weck, and we'll see about that. If I decide to not to do it or to put it off for however long, it's definitely not because of any problem that I have with it. I'm watching his videos every day. So how far will you allow yourself to go in these ways that you don't want to go? Like we say we want something, kind of getting back to like what women say they want compared to like what they end up with. In your business, how far will you go with what you don't want to where you time before it's time to change and either gain or lose from the consequences of that. I quit the training business in 2001 because the business was not what I thought it was going to be. More specifically, the place I was working at, the owner was a real control freak. And I still trained, and so I ended up quitting. But I still trained people out of my garage. Come over, we do martial arts, we lift. Wasn't charging any money. It was just, come over, we'll have some fun. I'll teach you what I know. We can have fun. People come over with the other experience in martial arts. We can, exchange ideas. We can just have a good time and train. And so I did a ton of that between 2001 when I quit and 4 years ago when I started training people professionally again, getting the Strong First certification. And so now as I look at what I want and what I want to associate with, I have no bad things to say about Strong First. It's not everything. It's not everything. But it's a good certification. But they're not right about it. Nobody knows everything. So I decided to, let that go and work on my own thing. So as May, when my cert gets closer and closer, I'm going to unveil more and more about what I'm doing. There's not going to be any huge changes in my training. I'm already doing this stuff, but we'll see how it goes. So with our getting back to where the climate suits our clothes, I think in these days it kind of gets easier to travel to where we want, where the quite literally the climate may suit our preferences better. And one of the things I was thinking about when I if I go out to learn from David Weck is he's in San Diego. And I think San Diego is the place where they're supposed to have like the most perfect weather, right? I live in the middle of Indiana, Indianapolis, and we're, in wintertime, it's not like it's kind of frustrating to drive on the ice sometimes. I go to what I call my job at, I leave my place at 4:30 in the morning. And so it's dark and it's winter, and sometimes the windshield's all frozen up and snowed up. And so I'm scraping my windows at 4:30 in the morning to go to a job where this is like what I call my job. It's not my passion, but it's very stable, good benefits, it pays pretty decent, and it does what I need to do for now as I'm sorting out some of these other business plans that I have. It works good because I'm done working at 1 in the afternoon, and so I have the afternoons and evenings for training, and so I have clients. And I was teaching classes, then I quit those, so now I'm just working with my clients one-on-one, and it opens the time for me to do the podcast. And I think, okay, well, when I go out to San Diego, I wonder if I want to stay. Like, man, it's nice out here. It's winter, and it's not really winter. And what would I be leaving behind? And what am I going to? I mean, just to have, sunny days. I don't know that I would want to do that. When I had thought about it before, I was like, well, because most of the time when people are in high school or whatever, they think, man, as soon as I graduate, I'm leaving town. It doesn't even matter what town you're in. You're going to a different one. And I ended up having, my daughter was born just a couple months before I turned 19. And it was a really great thing to happen. And then my son was born 3 years later. And so it was like, well, I'm not moving. I can't move when I have kids. And so now my kids are adults. My daughter just turned 21. My son will be 18 in just a few days. And I don't see them as much as I want. And maybe if I did move out somewhere, it wouldn't even mean I was seeing them much less or any less. So there's also this thing where, I remember from a long time ago, I was kind of like fascinated with the Polar Bear Club, where the guys jump into the frozen lake and they cut a hole in the ice and jump in, and they're excited about it. And then, like Wim Hof method is getting really popular. And I used to do stuff like years and years ago, be outside, and I would make it a point the coldest day of the year and the hottest day of the year, I'd go outside and do a workout. And so it could be, snowing out. I would have, just wearing shorts and just wearing a pair of shorts, no shoes. And if it got to be, too much, then I might have shoes on, or I might have sweats on, or whatever else, but just outside in the cold, outside, hottest day, doing my workouts extreme, really pushing myself to those limits. It's like something like, well, if you put yourself through so much like the suffering, and you learn how to just face it, and you learn how to just deal with it and get it so it's not a big deal, then when other life stuff comes at you, it's not such a big deal, and you can kind of you can see how people get worked up about nothing. They're suffering over stuff that they shouldn't even be bothered about. So there's some value to that training. I don't really bother with it now. I'll still go outside when it's cold, but I don't like try to think, oh, is it going to be the coldest day of the year? I need to be outside without a shirt on. I'm not. I used to do like lay down out in the snow, shorts, no shirt. I have video. I don't know if it's still on YouTube or not, but like where I was doing get ups in the snow, just shorts, no shoes. And I kind of got to the point where I was like, yeah, I don't need that anymore. Perhaps I'll do it in the future, but I'm not really trying to do like these Wim Hof cold techniques. When I first started it, I didn't even know who Wim Hof was. I was laying out in the snow before it was cool. I meant to read this before. It's a Pink Floyd song. So kind of going back to another subject we talked about today. A restless eye across a weary room, a glazed look, and I was on the road to ruin. The music played and played as we whirled without end. No hint, no word, her honor to defend. I will, she sighed to my request, and then she tossed her mane while my resolve was put to the test. Then drowned in desire, our souls on fire, I led the way to the funeral pyre, and without a thought of the consequence, I gave into my decadence. One slip, and down the hole we fall. It seems to take no time at all. A momentary lapse of reason. I said it like David Gilmour does. A momentary lapse of reason that binds a life for life. A small regret. You won't forget. There'll be no sleep in here tonight. Was it love? Or was it the idea of being in love? Or was it the hand of fate that seemed to fit just like a glove? The moment slipped by, and soon the seeds were sown. The year grew late, and neither one wanted to remain alone. One slip, and down the hole we fall. It seems to take no time at all. A momentary lapse of reason that binds a life for life. A small regret you'll never forget. There'll be no sleep in here tonight. It was by David Gilmour and Phil Manzanera, whatever. You shout in your sleep. Perhaps the price is just too steep. Is your conscience at rest if once put to the test? You awake with a start to just the beating of your heart. Just one man beneath the sky, just 2 ears, just 2 eyes. You set sail across the sea of long past thoughts and memories. Childhood's end, your fantasies merge with harsh realities. And then as the sails hoist, you find your eyes are growing moist. All the fears never voiced say you have to make your final choice. Who are you and who am I to say we know the reason why? Some are born, some men die beneath one infinite sky. There'll be war and there'll be peace. But everything one day will cease. All the iron turn to rust, all the proud men turn to dust. And so all things time will mend, so this song will end. Pink Floyd is my all-time favorite band. I Sorry, I had to hit pause to find this other one. Little by little, the night turns around, counting the leaves which tremble at dawn. Lotuses lean on each other in yearning. Under the eaves, the swallow is resting. Set the controls for the heart of the sun. Over the mountain, watching the watcher, breaking the darkness, waking the grapevine. 1 inch of love is 1 inch of shadow. Love is the shadow that ripens the wine. Set the controls for the heart of the sun. Witness the man who raves at the wall, making the shape of his questions to heaven. Whether the sun will fall in the evening, will he remember the lesson of giving? Set the controls for the heart of the sun, the heart of the sun, the heart of the sun. It's an interesting place we find ourselves in. As I'm creeping up to 40 years old, April 27th, I look around and like, what have I done? Where am I going? What's behind me? What is in front of me? Where am I right now? And I really like what I have done. I've had great opportunity to be a teacher to a lot of people and a student to a fair number of people, a lot of people, almost everybody, because my students I think of as my teachers also, even if they're 7 years old. I mean, how better to learn how to teach a 7-year-old than to learn from a 7-year-old and while you're teaching the 7-year-old. And I look at the people who I associate with and pretty cool. I have some pretty cool friends and a lot of people that they're teachers. They're doing stuff. They're learning, they're teaching. And I think that's really is my calling, is to learn and to teach. And I've always wanted to be on the high end of trainers, not necessarily like charging the most money, but high level. And so I think that's what people get with me. They get some high level stuff. I don't claim to know everything, and I'm not afraid to say who I'm learning from or what I'm getting away from. But I think I'm going to wrap the show up now. I hope I wasn't babbling too much. I had a lot of stuff that I was trying to figure out. Just turn to this random page in the prophet. And the priestess spoke again and said, "Speak to us of reason and passion." And he answered, saying, "Your soul is oftentimes a battlefield upon which your reason and your judgment wage war against your passion and your appetite. Would that I could be the peacemaker in your soul, that I might turn the discord and the rivalry of your elements into oneness and melody. But how shall I, unless you yourselves be also the peacemakers, nay, the lovers of all your elements? Your reason and your passion are the rudder and the sails of your seafaring soul. If either your sails or your rudder be broken, you can but toss and drift, or else be held at a standstill in mid-seas. For reason, ruling alone, is a force confining, and passion, unattended, is a flame that burns to its own destruction. Therefore let your soul exalt your reason to the height of passion, that it may sing, and let it direct your passion with reason, that your passion may live through its own daily resurrection, like the phoenix rise above its own ashes. I would have you consider your judgment and your appetite, even as you would two loved guests in your house. Surely you would not honor one guest above the other. For he who is more mindful of one loses the love and the faith of both. Among the hills, when you sit in the cool shade of the white poplars, sharing the peace and serenity of distant fields and meadows, then let your heart say in silence, God rests in reason. And when the storm comes and the mighty wind shakes the forest, and thunder and lightning proclaim the majesty of the sky, then let your heart say in awe, God moves in passion. And since you are a breath in God's sphere and a leaf in God's forest, you too should rest in reason and move in passion. Well, hell, I could have just read that one and summed up about everything I was thinking today. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate everyone listening. The show is doing really well. I'm blown away by it, and I wanted to start doing like at least 2 shows per week. I've been doing almost that but I don't want to do one if I don't have one sorted out in my mind. And I was kind of I kind of like knew what I wanted to talk about, but not quite how to go about it. And I hope it made sense to you today. And I will see you next time.